everyone, to Public Affairs. I am your host, Kaylee Aiken, and today I am here with two special guests, Frank and Larry. They are here with the Vietnam Wall. So why don't you guys introduce yourselves a little more and your experience in Vietnam and why you wanted to be involved.
Okay. First of all, my name is Larry Kreil. I'm from Ostrander, Ohio, just a little bit south of here, Delaware County. Graduated from Buckeye Valley High School, went on to college at Worcester, dropped out of the College of Worcester in the mid-60s, joined the service, was honored with the opportunity to train with the Special Forces. Green Berets, served 1 year in Vietnam as a Green Beret medical specialist on an A-team. Consider it one of the most defining times in my life, very important to me. An honor to serve the country, number one, and a very unique experience being involved in the Vietnam War. Come full circle from the military experience, which was pretty extensive in the area that I was at in 1969. Started my own businesses, come full circle to this particular point in time. And it's pretty important to us to recognize the sacrifices of the Vietnam War and maybe introduce that locally to where people have sort of a sense of the humility of that much sacrifice and maybe educate a little bit, be able to educate themselves a little bit about the war itself. So proud to be a part of this particular project and look forward to seeing all of you at the Vietnam Memorial Wall.
I'm Frank Hickman, born in Marion, as was my father, who was a 1937 grad of Harding High School. And like he, I've served in the military, volunteered. Where I went off to college, and by the way, I grew up on a small dairy farm down near Waldo, and after 50 years, I'm right back there where I started, and happy to do so. But where I went off to college was a college that required mandatory Army ROTC training. And out of 400 of us who started off in that, they selected 40 to go on to advanced training. So the day I graduated from college, I was a brand new lieutenant in the United States Army Armor Branch, and I had at that point a 4-year commitment. And so during that time period while I was on active duty, I volunteered to go to Vietnam, just like my friend Larry here, and served with an armored cavalry squadron, and that was ground cav as a platoon leader and later as a staff officer. So again, I'm back home again and happy to be here. Had a good bit of involvement with the Banner program right here in Marion, the Marion Veterans Banner program. But I'm really excited about us bringing the Vietnam Veterans Wall to our community once again. And that's coming up in less than a month. This wall travels throughout the United States every year. This year it'll make 31 stops across our country, but only one stop in Ohio. And we're very proud to have had the opportunity to bring it again to our community.
Yeah. So what is your guys' mission behind the wall?
Excuse me, I think that the best way, there seems to be sort of a lack of understanding of some of the sacrifices of the Vietnam War, even the history of the Vietnam War. And it's sort of an obsession with Frank and myself and our generation, the baby boomers. We lived it, breathed it. It was very much an important part of our life. The contribution to us is still very intense in our own memory and our own sort of psychology. And what we really like to do is give people the opportunity to just have an experience where you're in front of something as monumental as that. The wall itself is the length of a football field with just shy of 60,000 names on it, and you can't walk up to that without having some sort of a sense of humility as to the sacrifice of what people are willing to do. We wanted to share that. We lived it, and I just think it's important that we have the opportunity to share it. So much so that we're willing to work with a committee to bring it in from Washington, D.C. It's a pretty big production, so we'll give everybody that works with us a real debt of gratitude, because it takes quite a bit of an effort to be able to do this for the experience. The only reason that it is here is for that experience. It's not part of anything else. It's not part of a fair or anything that would be sort of the way we refer to it. It's not a circus that attracts a sideshow, or we're not trying to be the sideshow relative to a circus. The wall is the wall. It's sort of like the calling hours of a funeral. You have the opportunity to stand in front of it. And there's kind of an interactive quality to it, where if you reach out and touch it, it's almost like it reaches out and touches you back. It's a unique experience. We invite everybody to have that experience, and whatever you get out of it is what's important to us. We're not trying to tell you anything or educate you on anything other than providing you with the opportunity to have that experience and that experience alone. So very proud to do it. There's a lot of work. There's a lot of people that have really dedicated a lot of time to being able to put this together in Central Ohio, just south of the city of Delaware in Liberty Township. And we look forward to talking to any and every one of you that would want to come down and just share that experience. Just said something about to our Vietnam veteran buddies out there that are they're watching this right now. It'll be here in 19 days in a wake up, and I think you know what we're talking about when I say it that way. So we look forward to seeing you there.
And I'd like to add to that, we've talked to everyone about what our mission is, and Larry and I have been working on this for over 3.5 years now to bring that wall to our community. But our mission truly is, and every veteran that watches, including us, knows what missions is. Our mission is to honor those over 58,000 men and women whose names are etched on that wall, and to honor their families, their friends and classmates. But at the same time, it's to educate, and it's to educate the public and our school children. There's so much history there. There's a 20-year history of war and a country that was sorely divided, much worse than what we're living through today. So this opportunity to heal and to honor our fallen is absolutely important to us. And once the wall is in place, and that'll be on the afternoon of the 11th of September, that ground that it sits on will truly become hallowed ground, as surely as if we were in Arlington National Cemetery.
Yeah. So you guys have put a lot of work into this. So what is the Vietnam Wall to each of you?
That's a tough one, because it's such an emotional connection, because the reality is that being a combat veteran, I've actually put people on helicopters that are represented by the names on the wall. When you are in combat, one of the most awesome things that you'll actually experience is that you recognize what one man is willing to do for his fellow man, especially Americans. You're shoulder to shoulder, side by side, and the sacrifices that you're willing to make are just instinctive in Americans. And you come away with an appreciation of that to the point that you could never repay that. It's sort of a sense that the difference between life and death is just sort of the symbolic touching of the wall with this finger as the reflection touches it back. Very humbling experience, and one that I would hope nobody ever else to experience, but I wish you had the opportunity to know what that feels like, to know what one person is willing to do for another. People that they don't even know their names, and that's probably why I want to bring that particular, maybe there's a sense of that to the people of Central Ohio and family and friends, to give them the opportunity to just look at it and wonder and think about it. And that's why it's pretty important to me.
And for me, of the 2,700,000 men and women who served in Vietnam in that 20-year period, Larry and I are amongst the fortunate ones. Though we served in combat, we had the opportunity to come home. So this wall to me represents an opportunity to never forget. Those over 58,000 men and women whose names are on that wall did not get a chance to come home and live their lives. So our job is to keep their story alive. And we have a saying in the military, and any veterans that watch this will understand, we do this lest we forget.
Yeah. So let's talk more about the wall. When will it come in? When will it open? Where will it be?
I'll take that one, Larry. So it's going to arrive on the 10th of September. And actually, it's going to be quite a procession. It will start in Marysville. It'll come across Route 36 towards Delaware. It'll cut through Ostrander. And then it'll come on into Delaware, where the procession will be right down what we call Sandusky Street. And that procession will take it under American flag. Traffic will be stopped. But as it comes out of Marysville, it'll come under an American flag. As it comes through Ostrander, it'll come under an American flag. As it comes through Delaware, it'll come under American flag. And once it arrives at 4065 Liberty Road, that's 4 miles south of Delaware, it will arrive under an American flag as we honor those fallen that are represented on that wall.
Yeah. So, how long does it take to unpack? I know we've talked a little about it. How many volunteers does it take to get this all set up?
We haven't got a full count of the number of volunteers that we have, but we've exceeded the minimum requirement. We're still looking for volunteers, though. We want to certainly have more, more than enough. But it'll take sometimes as many as 60 individual able-bodied people, and I say that it's wonderful to volunteer, but you're carrying various plates and various pieces of equipment in order to assemble the wall under the supervision of the crew that comes in from Washington, D.C. It'll take almost a day to get everything set up and organized and everything in place and adjusted to be able to get the maximum benefit out of the lighting, et cetera. The number of volunteers then probably will exceed 200. We have volunteers on the grounds that will be able to escort people, take people back and forth if they're handicapped, wheelchairs, et cetera. We've got all kinds of golf carts set up. The entire logistical operation of the location is sort of a military mission, because most of the people that are leading our volunteer staffs are ex-military or currently on duty in the military. So kind of mission oriented, and we'll get the job done. The volunteers, in essence, Vietnam veterans and maybe some other individuals of that particular era, we will be manning this event 24/7. The lights will be on at night. It will be open 24 hours a day. And if you want to come at 3 o'clock in the morning, we'll be there maybe with a cup of coffee in the tent and a pat on the back, and hopefully a welcome home to the Vietnam veterans. It takes a tremendous effort, a tremendous number of volunteers, and we're very lucky to have an extremely good crew, good committee members, and we're right on top of it.
Yeah. This question's for the audience. If someone was out there wanting to volunteer, how would they contact you to be able to help?
Pretty easy.
Good point.
Let's take you to the website. And this is pretty easy, and audience, write this down. thewallthathealsohio.com. And again, it's thewallthathealsohio.com. Go there, click on it. The opening page will take you as far as you want to go, but 2 things to take a look at on that opening page: volunteers. And we need volunteers not just to erect the wall and then take it back down again. We'll have, as Larry said, volunteers helping people find their loved one on the wall. Actually, we have a website that'll go on the phone of the volunteer. Also, I'd like you to look at ceremonies. There'll be 4 ceremonies that are posted. Each one of those will be absolutely perfect as we honor with all solemn music and talks. We will honor those 58,000 plus their families. And I would encourage you to come out for the ceremonies. And then once you're there for the ceremony, you're welcome to stay as long as you like. And again, that website, thewallthathealsohio.com.
Yeah. So you said this, mentioned before we even started the interview, talk about some of the tours of the wall.
The tours?
The tours, yeah.
One of the primary objectives for this is to honor those of the Vietnam War, that particular era. The family members, the family of the soldiers that served in the Vietnam War, certainly the baby boomers, as we call them. We answered the call of John F. Kennedy, asked not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country, took it pretty serious. We all grew up under the guidance and tutelage of our parents, which were World War II veterans. But the ancillary mission to the wall is to honor, number one, and to educate, number two. The obsession that we have is to not let the story of the Vietnam War, the history of the Vietnam War, actually just sort of fade away. So education is extremely important to us, and we've reached out to a number of the schools surrounding the area, and right now we have committed on guided tours of probably 45 students per tour. We're hoping to be able to have the kids brought to the wall, guided tours supervised by the people of Washington, educators that are tuned into this, and give them, a history lesson relative to the Vietnam War and the sacrifices and the notion of the wall itself. Currently, we're at about 2,200, I think, 2,200 kids that we have signed up with the supervision of their school districts, et cetera. So we're looking forward to that as well. That would be if we could reach some of those kids and at least develop some sort of a curiosity, hopefully that they study it a little bit further and history becomes a little bit more important than maybe it's been in the past. So we want to be able to remember it, and we want the people to be able to research it, look it up, and the best place to start that would be with the kids. Most of the tours right now are designed for the 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, middle schoolers, and we expect to see 2,000 to 2,500, which is a lot. When you figure each tour is roughly 45 students for about 45 minutes, just being able to coordinate the buses coming into that location and being able to do that. We have a staff of past educators, retired educators working with the group in Washington, and we look forward to that being a pretty integral part of the project itself, and look forward to seeing the kids.
And I might add that those tours are actually a 3-part tour. Obviously the wall with over 58,000 names, but the truck, once it's offloaded, becomes a mobile museum with artifacts, photos, timelines, tremendous amount of history. So it becomes a 3-part tour. Each side of the truck represents its own individual tour. So in total, we have 3 parts to those tours, but that's not to exclude anyone that comes up that needs help finding their loved one on the wall, or individual tours can be arranged as people come up. If everyone has questions. We even have questions, and we serve there. And we had questions when Larry and I visited a mobile wall some years ago. So it's interactive, it's important, and one further thing, as long as we're honoring the 58,000 plus who didn't come home, you need to know that over 450,000 deaths of our brothers and sisters in arms who served in Vietnam, over 450,000 deaths now are attributed directly to Agent Orange or PTSD. And so there's a registry for that. It's called In Memory. It's important, and folks that have found out about this, certainly family members, and I've talked to a lot of them, they're so gratified that their loved one, their daughter or their son, is also remembered for their service in Vietnam.
Yeah. We had talked about that. So if someone came up to you at this event, are they able to register with you guys? Or?
Right. We can lead them to the documentation. It's pretty simple, and it's not involved at all. And yet we absolutely can. We can read them into that situation.
Good. So where does all this come from? How are you guys able to do this?
Mm-hmm. The Vietnam Memorial Fund in Washington, D.C., a nonprofit, not one bit of the memorial in Washington, D.C. has been funded by government money. This has been the outpouring of a generation of individuals through donations and put put the wall together. The traveling version, meaning the wall that heals, the one that we're talking about, also done 100% with donation. There is no government funding behind it whatsoever. To suggest that there's some simple way to accomplish that would be kind of obnoxious. The reality is it takes a lot of people, hundreds of thousands of people across the United States, with the outpouring of small contributions to be able to do it. We do it by donation alone from the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund, Washington, D.C. It enables us to get the wall here. We started by having communication application process with that particular organization in Washington. They travel all over the United States. Interestingly enough, this year, they were able to take the entire project to Hawaii, which challenged your logic a little bit because it's a truck and there's an ocean between here and Hawaii, but they managed to do it, which just goes to show the resolve of people who truly care. So we're fortunate to have them honor us with the opportunity to be the host of a national treasure, which would be the Vietnam Memorial Wall replica coming to Central Ohio.
I'd like to add on that when you say, how are we able to do it? And that is exactly right, what Larry said. But here's something that's a little bit more personal. For those of us who have served on the ground, we know men, and sometimes women, whose names are on that wall. And I know for myself, for the last 20 to 25 years, it's been my mission in life to make sure that those men and women are not forgotten. And every Memorial Day, you're going to find me speaking somewhere. This year it was Marion. But that is to ensure that we not forget their stories and we keep them alive. And not just for their families, but for all of us. And as Larry spoke about the history, this is part of our history. And for those of us who served on the ground in Vietnam, virtually every one of us, it was the most pivotal part of our experience in life. So that's how we can do it from a personal standpoint.
Yeah. My next question is, how many names are on the wall that differ from the original? I know that one's probably throw you for a loop.
Well, it's ever evolving. It's ever evolving, and I'm not sure what number it started off with. I'm really not. It wouldn't make any difference if it was 100 or 58,000. But as we have all this really unique advanced DNA testing, and here's an interesting thing. One of the unknown soldiers who had been laid to rest at Arlington in Washington, D.C., it was later through some advanced DNA testing, they were able to uncover who that particular man, that soldier, actually I think it was Air Force pilot, and he was reunited with his family after years of being at the tomb of the unknown soldier. So it's gradual as more names are uncovered, and that 58,000 plus also includes our missing in action.
Just add one little caveat to that. When they're listed on the wall missing in action, it's one little designation beside it if they're ever discovered in Vietnam, or if their remains are discovered. That can be changed then to another KIA, killed in action. And that's how the number somewhat has the opportunity to change a little bit. But for purposes of what's on the wall right now is 58,281, right?
Yeah. And that includes the 8 nurses. By the way, over 10,000 American military nurses served in the Republic of Vietnam. And as one person put it, and I think Larry relayed this to me, but it's fascinating. One of the nurses stood up and said, you know, when one of our wounded was brought to us, at that point his war was over and ours had just begun. And I thought that was so frank and such a from the heart, because they were working and saving lives. And again, over 10,000 served in country during the war.
Well, obviously you guys have put a lot of work into this. So as we're getting ready to wrap up the interview, is there anything you'd like to add that we may have missed, or concluding statement?
Sure. you can see this is a pretty important thing for Frank and myself and the remaining Vietnam veterans floating around the area. We want to make sure that get the word out. Any veteran from Vietnam War, you are more than welcome. Welcome home. We're going to be there. We'll be there 24/7 around the clock. If you're more comfortable coming at 3 o'clock in the morning, like I said, we'll sit down and have a cup of coffee, but we're going to be there. It's extremely important to us to do this. If you hear this, spread the word as best you can. We don't want anybody to be left out that wants an opportunity to come to the wall. The most important thing that you can glean from this particular interview is that website. Every question that you would have would be found on that website. So by all means, thewallthathealsohio.com. Go to that and it'll answer your questions, and we look forward to seeing you.
I would say once again, once you go to that website, go to ceremonies. The ceremony on Saturday night the 14th at dusk will honor the families, the friends, and the classmates. So what I would ask you, our viewing audience, if you know of anyone, and most of the time, classmates will know. If you go back to the classes of the mid to late 60s, early 70s, they know who the fallen were. And we want to honor those people and have them, if they don't come out any other time, come out on Saturday evening for a candlelight ceremony. And we promise you it'll be appropriate and it'll be something that you will never forget.
Yeah. Well, thank you both for coming and meeting with me today. I learned a lot. I hope to make it out to see the wall because, like I told you guys earlier, I saw the real one in person. I just want to compare because I had family that are veterans. So I appreciate you guys for coming out.
You are more than welcome, and when we see you there, Frank and I will give you a personal tour. You didn't get that in Washington, did you?
I did not.
That's right. Yes, absolutely. This has been a great opportunity.
Yes.
I want to thank
Thank
you and the church for this opportunity to get the word out to what we believe, and you should be able to tell by now how important this is. This goes right to our heart. So I thank you.
Thank you. And as always, you're watching Public Affairs, and I am your host, Kaylee Aiken.
The Wall That Heals is coming to Havner Park, Delaware County, September 12th through the 15th.
It's a 3/4 scale replica of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in Washington, D.C. Information about this emotional tribute can be found on our website.
Join us as we remember and honor those who gave their last full measure, lest we forget.